So I watched the Matt Dillahunty David Wood debate, and the first thing that I got to say is apparently David Wood made a mistake right from the start. Originally, the debate, as far as I know, was supposed to be what is better provides a better moral foundation, Christianity or atheism, and the Matt switched that to atheism/secular humanism. Now that's a perfectly awesome debate for a Christian to undertake, and it's a winnable debate. That's very, very similar. Matt Dillahunty, I've only seen him lose 3 debates. And all 3 debates are in very similar territory. Those 3 debates happen to be talking about the secular utility of religion. Very similar idea. Christianity, whether irrespective of whether you believe in God or not, this is why it's a really good debate. That's a really good thing to debate an atheist about, which provides a better moral foundation. Christianity, the teachings of Christianity, or atheism/secular humanism. That's a winnable debate, and David Wood could have easily won that. Because that's easy. It's a slam dunk for the Christian community as far as I'm concerned. It's very closely related to the 3 debates that Matt Dillahunty lost on the secular utility of religion. Now, in those 3 debates, Matt Dillahunty ceded the point all 3 times. He said, just because something is useful doesn't mean it's true. So you don't necessarily have to believe in God, and you don't have to convince an atheist of very much to convince them that there are strong moral teachings in Christianity that if people practiced on a daily basis, it'd be a much better world. That's an easy thing to do. First of all, you just tell them the teachings. Paul says, imitate me as I imitate Christ. So I, the practicing Christian, am supposed to imitate Jesus Christ. And every single practicing Christian has a rough idea of what that means. First of all, it means to be more loving. Love your neighbor as yourself. And it means to be more merciful. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. And furthermore, Christianity commands you to act this way in the world, that you are to be so loving to your fellow man. How do we know what that love is? According to the Bible, that you lay down your life for your friends. So you were supposed to be a loving, compassionate, merciful person up to the point of self-sacrifice, giving of yourself for your fellow man. That's what Christianity teaches. That's a really strong moral foundation. It's a really good ethical system. And if everybody lived it, guess what? It'd be a much better world. A much better world. And atheists would want to live in that world just as much as everybody else. Why? Because it'd be basically heaven on earth. Well, why isn't it working, Craig? Because nobody does it. Nobody does it. You do, Craig. I know, I do, but nobody else. No, people try it. If people actually enacted Christianity that way correctly, it would be a much better world. People would be a lot more moral, a lot more compassionate, a lot more kind and loving. Case closed. Now, secular humanism. The problem with saying secular humanism is a good moral foundation is that there is no such thing, as of this hearing, as secular humanism. There really isn't, even according to Matt Dillahunty. Keep in mind, Matt Dillahunty is the best debater in that atheist community. Okay? And even in this debate, now I've listened to Matt Dillahunty videos in the past on secular humanism. He's done like 2 or 3 hours on lectures, why secular humanism is vastly superior to religion, why secular morality is so superior to Christianity, something like that. 4 hours of it. And in those 4 hours, what's really, really interesting is there's never any such thing as a clearly definable code of conduct within secular humanism, nor was one presented in this debate. So you ask Matt Dillahunty or ask any atheist, okay, what does secular humanism mean? There's no such thing. I just spelled out a really easy to find, really easy to understand, clear code of conduct in Christianity that you, the practicing Christian, are supposed to uphold. Wherein, if everybody practiced, it'd be a much better world. Okay? Clear. Case closed, as far as I'm concerned. Now go to secular humanism. What do you teach? What does it teach us? And if there is a moral, he read, even in this debate, he read something like the Manifesto of Secular Humanism, the 3rd version. And did you hear anything about how you're supposed to treat your fellow man? No, not really. Nothing clear. Nothing clear. Even in this version. I've watched 3 hours of Matt Dillahunty talking about the vast superiority of secular morality. Never once have I heard any type of clear moral code or this is how you act. The one time where you do hear something, it's usually about the intrinsic rights of man. Why is that so interesting? Because that's borrowed directly from the Bible. Hello, it's Christianity light. Intrinsic value of human beings. Okay, there's intrinsic worth to human beings. Then ask the secular humanist, why is that, Mr. Secular Humanist? Because it's in the Bible. What? Why is that? Because it says in the Bible. Because it says in the Bible, basically. That's a concept that, yes, secular humanists usually believe. Universalist ethos that every single person has, intrinsic value of their own rights. But the reason where that came from is the Bible. Hello, it's directly from the Bible. When atheists start crying, well, like Dennis Prager will say, there are Judeo-Christian roots to Western civilization. All these atheists will have a cow, like, I think, well, it's true. It's basically true. There's a concept that even a secular humanist has latched onto, the intrinsic worth of human beings. The problem with that as some sort of superiority in secular morality is it's borrowed directly from the Bible. It's a clear scriptural predicate for it in both the Old and New Testament. The Old Testament is the imago Dei. Every man is made in the image of God. If every man is made in the image of God, then every single solitary human being in the human family has intrinsic value and intrinsic worth. That's a scriptural predicate for that idea. And that idea, as far as I know, first appeared in Christianity. Prior to Christianity, it first appeared in the Old Testament, then it has its fulfillment in the New Testament, where Jesus said, that which you have done unto the least of my children, you have done unto me. So, in my religion teaches that the most forsaken human being on planet Earth, the lowliest lowly that ever lowed, that doofus scumbag over there, what about him? What you do to him, you've done to God himself. That person has intrinsic moral worth. He's made in the image of God, and he's so valuable that if you do something wrong to him, you might as well be doing it to God himself. That's a really strong moral foundation in terms of treating your fellow man with compassion. It really is. Yeah, Christians don't practice it. That doesn't mean it's not in there. It doesn't mean we aren't told, not being told to practice it. Just because we don't practice it doesn't mean it isn't there. So it's there. The point is, all of the good stuff in secular humanism, even according to Matt Dillahunty's probably own moral code, he's a pretty moral guy overall. He's not hitting people with the ball-peen hammer, even though he doesn't believe in God. Yeah, well, I'll get to that in a second. He's not smashing people over the head with the ball-peen hammer, even though he doesn't believe in God. Lo and behold. How is he managing to resist? Maybe he really does believe in God. Otherwise, he'd be smashing everybody in the head. Otherwise, he'd be killing us all. I don't know. I'll get to that in a second. Never mind. So he's a pretty moral guy, and if you actually dug into his secular humanism, according to him, what he thinks is actually really important values, most of those values come directly out of the Bible. Intrinsic worth of a human being. That's what secular humanists will talk about. Well, they borrowed it from Christianity. That's all I'm saying. That concept didn't appear to humanity out of thin air. It appeared in the Bible. And prior to the Bible, that was kind of a radical concept. That's not a normal train of thought for human beings, that the people outside of my particular tribe, my particular family, are also human beings. That's recognition of our own common humanity. Secular humanists probably would agree with that as an idea, that we're all human beings and we should all, love one another. But there's a clear reason where the clear delineation of that idea first appeared to humanity in the Bible. That's my point. So that's where it comes from. Now, why? So, okay, let's cut to the chase. So, given all that, David Wood should have killed him, right? No. No, because he switched the debate to God. God as the foundation for morality, making his burden of proof 100 times higher. Hello. Now instead of proving that there's a moral code to Christianity, which is easy to find, and there isn't one in secular humanism, which there really isn't, and when there is one, they borrowed out of the Bible, or borrowed it from Christianity, usually. Maybe that's debatable in all cases, but usually. Now he's switched the debate to something that, I don't even think I could win that debate. The ontology of morality. Matt Dillahunty, and his framing of it is really kind of... to be honest, I didn't quite understand his frame. It's not all that coherent. It's kind of like, why are you not beating everyone over the head with the ball-peen hammer? You don't believe in God. Why are you not doing it? I don't really understand his argument because it really, honest to God, wasn't all that coherent. But it seemed to be about the ontology of morality. That Matt Dillahunty, if we take what Dawkins says at face value, that you and I are just, buckets of DNA heading towards death. Why care at all about what I do to other human beings? Now, Matt Dillahunty's personal morality that he's worked on, his personal moral code that he shops around these debates, I think that's successful and I think it works. Christians might cry about that, but I see no reason I see no quarrel with his objection, with his own personal thing that he shops around. That's not secular humanism, just so you know. There's a difference. He's talking about secular humanism like it's so great, it's so awesome, and it's so moral and upright. There's no such thing as these are the codes of conduct in secular humanism. But then when he starts talking about morality and the ontology of morality, he starts using his own personal system or his own personal ideas on the subject that I've heard him talk about many times, and I think they're basically right. He kind of borrowed it for a little bit from Sam Harris about the chess game analogy. And his version is, just like in chess, the rules are subjective. Once you have established that winning the game is the goal of chess, then we can make, it's really easy to figure out what is, objectively speaking, the best moves to win the game. And he kind of likens morality onto that. I think that's successful. If you have a society, okay, it's in all of our best interests that the people in the society be the most functional, the most healthy, and the most happy. So for the well-being of the society as a whole and the individual, these morals, these values, these codes of conduct are going to be a lot more successful, objectively speaking, than these ones. That makes sense. And I don't see how you question the ontology with that. Well, why, Matt Dillahunty? There's no good reason for that. If you just say that, but if you don't believe in God, I don't really get David Wood's argument necessarily. I don't think it's all that good. I get that it's emotionally compelling to him for reasons that he kind of hints at in his conversation. He apparently used to be really, really morally challenged, really kind of a psychopath. And then he found God and, totally changed his relationship to the universe at large and changed his relationship to himself, brought real healing into his life, and now at least he's not killing everybody. Or not trying to kill people. That's a good thing. That's a benevolent. That's very good. Thank God that you are now a Christian. And like I think Nathan said, I just hope he doesn't convert to atheism. He's going to come after us. Nothing's going to stop him from trying to harm us. So I get it why it's emotionally compelling to him. That's probably why he thinks it's a great argument. But it isn't a very strong argument in terms of the logical consistency of it. And furthermore, one of the things that Matt Dillahunty challenged, and as far as I know, challenged successfully because I don't think he got a good answer, is just because you have plugged God in as the reason for why you act morally, that how it doesn't really provide it in the way you say. Because a practicing Christian can ignore the dictates of God and start doing immoral acts, or can do immoral acts and put it under the banner of, my God told me to do this. It's not really quite so successful, logically speaking, as an ontology. Now, maybe it could be if it framed properly. So a normal, I don't really understand his frame. He didn't really frame it at all, to be quite honest with you. I get why it's emotionally compelling to him because Christianity basically saved his life. I mean, let's be perfectly crystal clear. The guy was scary, was a menace to himself and to others. Jesus turned the light on his heart. And he developed a prayer life and got some control over himself. And thank God he's a reformed person. And thank God he found Christianity so extraordinarily useful. And I think you can make a logical case that Christianity can be that useful to people. I think you can make a really strong logical case. But that's not a strong ontological case for now God is why people act morally. This gets really complicated and hard to explain, but, basically he switched the debate. He switched the debate to the ontology of morality and then never really successfully framed the ontology of morality so that any of the atheists walking away would go, even if an atheist doesn't agree with you, even if an atheist listening to me isn't going to believe in God, okay? Part of the point of being in a debate with an atheist is you want to be successful to the point where even if they aren't going to become a Christian by listening to you, or even if they aren't going to recognize, they aren't going to convert hearing you, they're still going to recognize the truth of what you're trying to present, and you're making arguments in favor of your case that are logically consistent and build on themselves. So the person planting seeds so that the person walks away and go, okay, I don't necessarily believe him, but he made some sense here and he made some sense there. I'm not sure he made any type of a convincing headway in terms of, convincing atheists at all. at all. If you look at the comments, normally I read the comments on these videos a lot. Why? Because it's instructive to me how other people are perceiving what he said. I don't think he made any headway in terms of convincing atheists to give a second look to Christianity or really think about how Christianity is useful for moral instruction. I think there's a really compelling testimony buried inside of him. I really do. Because that could really be an interesting case study in how Christianity can really transform a life. Because I've seen Christianity transform a life. I really have. And one of the reasons why Christianity, like, for example, people in my immediate family converted was because I became a Christian. The transformation in me was almost immediate. And it was really dramatic. It was really dramatic. I mean, I'm basically the same person. A lot of people don't know I'm a Christian from my hometown, my high school, and things like that. They don't know. They have no idea. Facebook friends, things like that. They have no idea. I don't make a big deal of telling people. So, they don't know. So nothing about me has actually changed all that much. But a lot of things changed in my relationship to stop drinking, stop smoking, things like that. But also in my relationship with personal morality. For example, my brother-in-law came out to California, saw the transformation in me. I've told the story before, I know, but it's a good story, so relax. It's germane, so take a chill. My brother-in-law comes out to California, sees the transformation in me, basically becomes a Christian on the spot. Now, they were looking for a religion to raise their family in, so it's not quite so, oh my God, hallelujah, sign me up for Christianity. It's a little bit like that, but not quite so crystal clear. He goes back to New York, okay? This is a wealthy, really, really wealthy, VP of a brokerage house. Good guy, but becomes a better person by virtue of the fact that he is converted to Christianity, noticeably better person within the context of my immediate family. My mother immediately noticed a change in him, that he was a lot more concerned with the well-being of people outside of himself. Why? Because that Christian moral instruction is the service of Christ, laying down our life for our friends and our peers. That's what Christianity is actually teaching people to do in a really deep, meaningful way. My wife is a much better person by virtue of her Christianity, ask her friends. She's a lot more useful to her friends than your average person would be. I mean, she was probably a really good friend prior to, becoming a Christian. She was a better friend than most people are, more compassionate towards a friend. But Christianity gives you that extra, this is what God wants me to do. Help you, serve you, be better for you. It was immediate in my brother-in-law. It was a stark transformation. I think that's what David Wood is angling at. I think. But truthfully, his presentation in this particular... his presentation... I'll take another look, but it was really all over the place. And I don't see that it was successful at all. I really don't. Matt Dillahunty is Matt Dillahunty. He's almost always good. He says a lot of the same things. He has a lot of consistency in what he argues for. And the only way that you can really beat him, if the goal is to win a debate, is to stick to a winnable structure. God, which is better, God or secular humanism, isn't winnable. Which is a better moral foundation, Christianity or secular humanism? Eminently winnable. Eminently winnable 100 times out of 100. All you have to do is make a strong case and say, look, if people actually acted what Christianity teaches, it'd be a better world. It'd be a better world. And that's almost inarguable, I know exactly what he'd argue. He just did it here too. Oh yeah, well, slaves and Christians would everybody be in slavery? I could hear the counter argument. Never mind. Yeah. But then whatever. I hear the counter arguments right now, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't even believe I'm listening to that. So, anyways, not a very satisfying debate. Really, really, honestly, not a very satisfying debate overall. So that's my analysis. I may take another look at it because I'm interested in the conversation they had about the experiment where you do the shocks, where the person administers the shocks. I think that experiment is very interesting, and it says a lot about human beings and human nature. I've been fascinated with that experience since I've been 14 years old. I remember I had a psychology book when I was in 7th or 8th grade. Some textbook was laying around my house. Why it was there, I don't know, but I was fascinated with it, and that experiment was in there. I think that's a Sanford experiment, or maybe that's a different one, but there are a couple of really fascinating case studies in there. That's a really fascinating case study on, people acting certain ways. But I don't think it necessarily tells you all that much about the inner morality of the human being. I think it says more about how people bow to authority. That's what I think it says. How people think that, people just have a really, really stressed out disobeying authority, or not listening to authority clearly. But anywho, that's another video for another day. So, not 100% satisfied with the debate that I saw. Didn't think it was a good look didn't think it was all that convincing, the case he made. Really didn't. He was kind of haphazardly arguing the ontology of morality, which again, he should really dig into it, because I can understand why it's really emotionally compelling to him. Jesus saved his life. That's the subtext. Jesus saved that guy's life. Saved that guy from being a total destruction to himself and others. So that's a good thing. And that should be applauded. And maybe there is a way even to explain that to an atheist, where me and an atheist thinking about it together could find a logical series of reasons why Christianity was so particularly useful for making that guy more morally acceptable, morally upright, more morally responsible. This wasn't that argument. It really wasn't. This wasn't a very clear, coherent argument. It really wasn't. At least as far as I saw. Now, if I'll watch some of the other people talk about it. I see Shannon and Paula G. I watched 5 minutes of it. They made a video on it. Braxton Hunter made a video on it. I'll watch some of the other videos, and if I think that everybody else is seeing something that I'm not, maybe I'll come back to it. But from where I see it at first glance, and I haven't finished it either, so keep that in mind. But from where I see it at first glance, it wasn't really all that strong or successful of an argument. So that's where I'll leave it now. If something changes my mind, I'll come back and do another video on it. So there you have it, kids. That is my analysis thus far. And that's all. Mass is ended. Go in peace. Amen.